Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the IBC. This is the Investor Business Conference for MyWealth Holdings, and as you know, focusing under the MyWealth Method platform. Tonight, we have a fantastic guest speaker lined up for you that's going to take over for me just now. I'd like to introduce to you, if you don't mind, our speaker tonight is Guillaume Marais. Now, Guillaume is a believer, and he has a daughter that got married, and he became a grandfather in June of 2021. That's right, he's becoming one. So that is around the corner. The man is a reader, loves to travel. He flies a aircraft, he rides motorbikes, cycles, mountain bikes, loves music, and would you believe, even loves to learning to play cello. But in terms of when it comes to business acumen, this man has got a real great accolade, and that is that he started in 1978, where a company went through mergers and acquisitions, and he ended up as group human resources and compensation manager, and unfortunately was part of the retrenchment of about 12,000 people in his career. Well, that was soul destroying, and he was very conflicted in terms of how that fitted in with his personal vision and purpose, and that is really making a difference in the lives of people. And one of the things that changed things around for him was when he was at the age of 13, when his father came home one evening and distraught told his mother that he had to let go of 3,000 people. Well, that sort of got his mind in motion, and that led to him today. We left corporate, and in 1998, he joined Indgro Holdings, INDGRO, Indgro Holdings, and presently he holds the position as CEO. Now, this group was born in 1982 out of innovation and solving problems every day. He is the co-founder, majority shareholder, and also director in several other companies. Indgro of itself, as of December 2019, placed more than 400 employees, and that is in South Africa. And they are looking to place 500,000 people in employment positions in the next 3 years. And he says before he is late for his own funeral, he'd like to get to 1 million. The man has got several awards. He, as transformational coach and entrepreneur, has literally spoken to thousands of people. In Nasdaq in 1993, he spoke to more than 15,000 people. He's got a master's in transformational leadership and coaching. And all I can say is a friend of mine, a man with a teachable spirit, and loves to learn on a daily basis. So Guillaume, from all of us, I'd like to invite you. I'd like you to please put your camera on that people can see who they're speaking to. And Charl, if you could just make that possible. And yes, the topic tonight, Guillaume Marais on discarding the orphan mentality. Over to you, Guillaume.
Good evening, everyone. And Anthony, thank you for the introduction. Anthony sent me a couple of minutes ago, he sent me a little note and he said, okay, I can speak till 8 o'clock. And I thought, you know, an old gentleman always reminded me one day about when you speak to people is it needs to be like a little black number. It needs to grab the attention, but it needs to be short enough that the attention doesn't wander. So hopefully I can keep you attentive in terms of where I come from. The topic that I've chosen tonight to talk to you about the orphan spirit is something that I have studied personally for many years. Since my background is HR, or human resources, I've studied what is the relevance and the congruence between the success rate of families, natural families versus blended families, and the importance of the father-mother relationship. And over the years, I've had fascinating results where I realized there are very specific things that sets us up. Why I want to talk to you about an orphan spirit is because of we so often, when we are, Anthony, with the investment company that he's got, you know, we talk about investment. And for that to flow naturally into our life, we need to have a spirit of abundance. But when we have a spirit, an orphan spirit, the first thing that starts to happen is to say, but how am I going to do it? How am I going to elect the resources? And that really puts a brake onto our vision and where we want to go. Anthony, I've got no particular reference point in terms of what is the audience that I'm going to speak to. However, if there's some questions that you want to ask, please feel free to do that. So every day when we have a spirit of a spirit of fear, or a spirit, the orphan spirit, we lose opportunities in terms of to attract the right things to come our way. So our energy levels introduce ourselves within the first 3 seconds when people see who we are. And that sets us up when people decide whether they want to do business with us or not. Now, we have got in this universe, and that's a promise that God has made, is that we have got a limited number of days here on earth, but we have also got access to unlimited resources. And that stems through our belief system, our true efficacy. My passion is to help people step into their true efficacy in terms of what is their purpose, what is their vision, how to align that vision and purpose in terms of their career, in terms of an entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur most of my life. But when we are entrusted with abundance in a world that I can see, favor comes our way. And when favor comes our way, we quite often think it is ourselves. But remember, God has blessed us with knowledge and talent and skill set. And when we become good stewards, we step into that purpose that is God designed us. Sometimes he just reveal a very small part of our scroll and our purpose, because what he does is his whole creation, how he created us and designed us, is for us too big to comprehend in one singular moment. So over time, and normally it comes with age, people will realize in terms of quite often question in terms of their purpose and the destiny in terms of what they've achieved. I want to come back to the premise of the orphan spirit. It is coupled to the father's wound and the mother's wound. So there's quite a lot of men, again, don't know what is the compilation of the group here tonight, that the biggest desire for a man is to hear that his father is proud of him and his father loved him. And the biggest desire for a woman or for a girl is that the fathers love her and is proud of her. So a father is a girl's first love and a son's first hero. But we as parents don't have that manual to bring up our children in the best way that there is possible, because we learn through the mistakes, and the mistakes that is passed on from a generational perspective. Because when will we know that we are good parents? When our grandchildren become good parents, because it takes 3 generations to see what has been taught by ourselves to our children. That what is taught in terms of skill sets, knowledge, experience, love, compassion, to be transferred from one generation to the other. Now, the moment you come in with an orphan spirit and you think, how am I going to afford this? How am I going to pay for this? I can't pay for my education. Or maybe you want to have this fancy car, but you can't afford it. Or maybe you are blessed and come from a family with old money. You will not value that car as much as if you have worked for it in a time when there's maturity coupled to that age. So we've also done studies over many years. My sister is also a wealth coach, whereby she worked with very affluent families across the globe. And normally the first time a person generates wealth. So while you can see I'm not sitting in Israel, I'm sitting here in my study. That's part of the Jordan Valley, there behind me. Another story for another day, but it was fascinating. So my sister is a wealth coach, and she works with generations in terms of where their wealth stay in the family. Now, normally when you create wealth or you build wealth, it's you're the creator of it, Your children will inherit it, and their grandchildren will squander it. Now, she's working with families where the generation has inherited the wealth over 11 generations. And that becomes old money. And, you know, the compounding effect in terms of old money is quite significant. So when we talk about the orphan spirit, and you think of that you can't afford it, or you can't do this investment or whatever, you actually put blockages on yourself. And from a spiritual perspective, from changing the atmosphere. So changing the atmosphere is in terms of, if you come depressed, the quickest way to change that is to go into a spirit of rejoicing. When you rejoice and there's thanksgiving in it, there's always trials and tribulations that we go through in our life. And these trials and tribulations really sets us up in terms of to grow and to develop. And normally I say to people, when is it that you grow the most? Is the moment that you're just about to give up. And you say, but I'm going to persevere. I really want to push through and get to the other side. That is when the greatest growth in you takes place. So when you are to change the atmosphere as far as the orphan spirit is concerned, as I said early on, is you step into gratitude. Now, having a grateful heart is to be grateful for the trials and tribulations that you're going through in your life. The whole thing is in terms of, if we're always joyful and we pray on a continuous basis, whatever the circumstances is, we shift something within our mindset in terms of how the brain receptors fire and things like that. Because the moment you are confronted with a problem, you see that becomes an opportunity. And when you ask yourself, how is this, what I'm busy going through, serving God? And how is this serving for the greater good? Because if you take care of the relationship, and the relationship that you have with yourself is directly proportionate to the relationship that you have with other people. Now, people, when people are on an emotional roller coaster, they cannot make good financial decisions. I always say to people, don't make a decision, an important decision, when you're on a high or on a deep low. Rather mark some time for a day or two that you just can get to grips in terms of these emotions that you're feeling, in terms of whether there's sound reasoning behind this decision that you make. So whatever happens to us, God rewards us in all the growth by pruning. So as an orphan, if you've got an orphan spirit, you would ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Why am I going through in this valley? You know, can't things just become better? Why is somebody having a better career or better life or better investment in terms of what I'm having? And the reason behind it is because you have not learned the lesson. And the lesson will repeat itself over and over and over until such time as you can embrace the problem or the opportunity that you've got, and you can grow through it. And God will, on a continuous basis, put this across your path. When Anthony said earlier on, in terms of the business, when I was at the age of 13, and my father came to me and he said to me, he told my mother that he had to go and tell 3,000 people the following day that he was going to notify people to be retrenched. They're going to be retrenched, because he was a secretary of a staff association. I said, I will never want to be in that position. So I left the corporate world because it was soul destroying, telling in excess of 12,000 people that they don't have jobs, or to dismiss people. Now, if people are naughty or whatever, and they don't want to learn the lesson, there's consequences. And there's always consequences in our lives in terms of what we're doing. But the opportunity is when I shared to you earlier on in terms of what happened, for instance, here in this Jordan Valley. I was in Israel in 2018, standing at the Wailing Wall. And I was having a conversation with God there and saying, okay, show me your purpose. Show me the purpose that you've got for me or whatever. And there were several other conversations that I've had with people. And I realized the legacy that I'm busy building inside the business where Anthony said, we have created employment for 432,000 people. And I want to go to 500,000 within the next 3 years. So where are we going this? Where is this orphan spirit? There is no orphan spirit in me, because I see that the heavenly resources is accessible to me. My father, my biggest desire as a man was to hear my father say to me, he loved me and he was proud of me. I never heard it. My father died about 6 or 7 years ago, and I never heard it. And I said, is that an indication? Is that a reflection in terms of the type of person that I am? Or is that a reflection in terms of how my father grew up? Because my father was a much more conservative person as to what I am. And I realized he did his best. You know, we as parents, when we do our best, and we don't, my passion for reading, and I've got a mind that I want to renew on a continuous basis, and I want to learn. I spend 2-3 hours a day reading and researching and things like that. So if you don't hear that from your father, it creates a need inside you, and you will look for it at places and areas where you are. Sometimes it's going to ankle tap you and you don't know, you don't realize what's happening. And the same thing happens to ladies or to young girls in terms of when they don't hear their father loves them or is proud of them. The mother wound has got other intervention that comes into it, because the mother wound is the lack of nurturing, the lack of education, the lack of support, the lack of guidance. And I found in my career of in excess of 35 years, that there's a direct correlation to the people who had the orphan spirit or the mother wound or the father wound, and in terms of the success that they've had. Quite often I sit in interviews, my ExCo team knows when we interview somebody for a position, and I really make it very difficult in our organization for people to join us, because I'm looking for reasons not to employ. I don't look for reasons to employ. And the reason not to employ is, does this person demonstrate a spirit of abundance, a spirit of can-do? Is this person in gratitude, or is this person playing the blaming game? And remember, I said earlier on, when you go for an interview, or when you walk into a room, people decide within the first 3 seconds whether they're going to like you. And remember, you haven't said anything yet. So a lot of you, I presume, Anthony, is on this platform, whereby you want to create wealth for other people too, and obviously share in that wealth in terms of what you want to generate. But people say, I often say to people, if you are the most influential person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. If you are in a room where people really stretch you and push you and things like that, then you can learn from them. I so often smile at people. I was fortunate enough to meet Jack Walsh, quite a few other influential people across the globe. And what I've learned from them is that you sit and listen and say, what has been your greatest success stories, and what did you learn from it? So quite often, we as individuals in a certain stage of our life, let's say here in the mid-40s, sometimes or early 50s, we start to question purpose and whether we've achieved it. Sometimes it happens earlier in terms of our life. And when there's congruence and alignment with our value system, and the value system is not compassion and love and affection and things like that. Our value system evolves around health, our wealth, our finances, our bent, our social interaction, our relationship, our religious orientation and things like that. So the moment there's congruence in these aspects versus in terms of the organization that you're working for, or in terms of your business plan, or the company that you're busy setting up, you're going to put rocket fuel inside that business and inside you, because every decision that you make is going to be aligned in terms of that objective. If it is not, you're playing small with your talent. And when you do that, you're going to waste time. And you're going to repeat the cycles in terms of investing time, money, and effort and not get you where you want to be. I sometimes say to people when I coach them, I said, tell me in terms of what your vision is. Or tell me why do you want me to coach you? In the first 3 minutes, I said to the person, I'm not the right coach for you, or you're not coachable. Because here's the thing, a question that I ask them, irrespective if it's men or women. Ladies like to wear sometimes high heel shoes and whatever, and they come into my office and whatever, and I said, okay, you want me to coach you. So tell me, how serious is it for you? How much do you want to succeed in life? And they said they prepare to do anything. I said, okay, prepare to do anything. As long as it's on top of the table, nothing underhandedly, you'll prepare to do anything. I says, yes, okay. I said, have you ever run a marathon? And they look at me. Sometimes I say yes, sometimes I say no. And I said, remember, a marathon, I think it's 42.5 kilometers. And they said to me, no. I said, well, if you don't run the marathon, you're going to die. And they look at me and I says, okay. I said, you're going to run the marathon? I said, no. I said, well, you die. You said to me a few seconds ago, you're prepared to do anything. If they say to me, yes, then I say, okay, you've done a marathon. Then I ask them other questions. But if they say to me, no, I said to them, okay, if you don't run the marathon the next 24 hours, exactly as what you are dressed here, with your smart shoes, with your shoes, ties, tie, what you got on, anything, you have to run it within the next 24 hours or you're going to die. They make a decision like that. And the decision is not to run the marathon. The decision is they don't want to die. So when people come to you and they say to me, Anthony, motivate me. And Anthony can do whatever he wants in life to motivate me, but he will not get it right. Because the driver doesn't come from him. The driving comes from internally. And you can't motivate people. You can inspire them. So the story about the marathon is in terms of the person, Anthony, doesn't want to die. So he's going to do the marathon. And there's lots of other questions that you ask. People evaluate you by the quality of questions that you ask, not by the quality of answers that you give. So for men, we have to step into our role because we are sons of God. When people ask me what I do, I say, I'm a son of God. He's my beloved and I'm his. The second thing that they ask me is in terms of what I do. Now, if I have to explain to them what I do, it's a long story. I say I'm a hobo, just to see if people listen. Now, when people start to listen attentively, then you know you got to grab their attention. When I've spoken on the international stages on leadership and entrepreneurship, you can see if you can connect with the eyes of the people by whether there is light in their eyes, if they can relate. So it's very impersonal having this webinar because there is hardly any feedback that I get from people. I'll go and have a look at the questions that just now from people that want to chat and ask questions. But here's the thing. People will always forget what you say if they don't implement it within the next 24 hours. But they will never forget how you made them feel. So here's another thing that I've learned through the journey of how to overcome the orphan spirit, is you catch people doing things right. When people pass away, my mother passed away about 4 years ago. She was suffering from leukemia, and she was in the ICU, in and out of a coma and things like that. And she appointed me as the executor of her estate in the case of a death. So the Saturday morning, I went to the hospital to see if she's all right. And there was my sister. I'm the youngest of four. My elder sister is this wealth coach. And we were sitting and talking to each other while my mother was lying in a coma. But now we're bawling our eyes out because we know my mother is at the end and she's in severe pain. She's sedated by morphine and whatever. and we don't know if she can hear us. But you know, when people pass away, the last thing that go is the hearing. So we have conversations about the joy and what the matriarch she was, in the sense of how she, compassion and life and love for us and for children. So the next moment she opened her eyes and she looked at me and my sister Ilse with these incredible, beautiful green eyes. And I said to Ilse, look at Mum's eyes. Look in her state of pain where she is, that she is still concerned about us because she sees her two, a youngest one, the oldest one crying. And that for me was a Rubicon moment, because the principle of being expectant, I never expected something like that happen. But being expectant in terms of declaring it, in terms of your success, where you want to go, what is your resolve, what is your resilience? The thing about resilience is not in terms of to become an overcomer, but the resilience is to how quickly you'll be able to stand up after every time you've fallen down. Here's the thing about us as men, and to a lesser degree, ladies, that we don't talk about things like this because there is shame associated with it. And, you know, cowboys don't cry, men don't cry. So we shove it down. Women like to talk about their problems. And there's another thing that's associated with either the orphan spirit, the father or the mother wound. So when we learn to become authentic and become mindful and intentional of where we are, something magic happens in our purpose and identity. And people start to gravitate towards us because we become real. So the thing that changes shame is to become vulnerable. I am vulnerable here tonight with you, and I share with you part of my journey of not being of identifying the orphan spirit, but having both the father and mother wound. And the core of that was the orphan spirit. How do we overcome that? Is in leadership positions, in standing in front of people, we have got to demonstrate courage. In Good to Great, Jim Collins, where he talks about level 5 leadership, you know, level 5 leaders has got incredible capacity to show courage, because courage is, I have got no idea how you guys are going to react tonight with the things that I say or questions that you're going to ask or whatever. But by having the courage and share the journey with you, immediately you start to realize, but this person, although I am very blessed with a successful career, I would have wanted to do so much other things that when I said to Anthony, I'm going to be late for my funeral. But there is this absolute desire for me in terms of, I know I've got a limited number of days on this face of the earth. And every morning I get up and I say, God, whatever you're going to bring to my table today, let me be your servant and let me stand in obedience to you on that day, for this day. And I'm grateful for today. I don't desire something 2, 3, 4 years ahead, because I know if I play with every opportunity that I've been given here today to the best of my ability, I'm going to be blessed, and I'm going to be blessed forward. So in summary, I'm going to sum up for you this thing. When you are being given gifts and talents, whatever the makeup of that is, the quicker there's the transference of knowledge and experience to other people that you give it away, the more you're going to be blessed. Anthony, that's my summation. I don't know if there's any questions.
Excellent, Guillaume. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to speak to you, but Charl, can you put my camera on as well? Because I'd just like to take this a point further with Guillaume, because we have been leaders for years and we know each other quite well. So Guillaume, the first thing I want to take back to is speaking through the ambit of investment. It actually made me think when you made a statement, you said children will inherit and their children will squander it. Let's elaborate on that. Why do you make a statement like that?
You see, we as adults or as children, Anthony, that your father teaches you the value of money.
I come from a background where I was taught that money doesn't grow on trees. And I can tell you that played a vital role in my money blueprint in terms of always living in my younger life from a scarcity mentality, that there's not enough money, because he said money doesn't grow on trees.
Yeah. You see, what your father did is, and we talk about let's say your father continues, let's say your grandfather, Anthony, said to your father, and what was your father's name?
Roy.
Let's say your grandfather said to Roy, money doesn't grow on trees. Roy grew up with the orphan mentality that money doesn't go around trees, okay? And probably your grandfather or your father itself went through maybe the Second World War, and it was tough times for them. So there wasn't really an abundance. But what happened is that, Anthony, the moment your father started to have that conversation with you, he changes the epigenetics in terms of your DNA. Because what happened there is that scarcity went to go and sit in your DNA and on your mind. Now, every decision on a subconscious level that you made says money doesn't grow on trees. So you've missed out on so many opportunities. Instead of looking, money doesn't grow on trees. What if the leaves on the trees are money? You know, just different perspectives, different mindsets. And the moment that starts to happen, you attract abundance to your life. I don't know if I answered your question.
I think that is great because, you know, in terms of the whole picture of money doesn't grow on trees, I had to change my own mindset because, yes, I grew up with that orphan mentality that there's never enough money until somebody said to me, well, where does paper come from? And I went, from trees. And I then from that point in mind, saw that the leaves on the tree actually is money. So I saw a different picture in my mind, and that changed my point of reference. So can you relate with that?
Yeah. You see, Anthony, when we start to vision, I said early on, if you play small with your talents, you know, you've got a vision in terms of what you want to go to. Now, if you have got this vision about having this empire that you want to manage or wealth that you've created, now there's different form of wealth. You know, health is a form of wealth. Social friends. You know, the sum of the five people that you've had the last conversation with during today is a big indication in terms of how your life is going to pan out moving forward. You know, the whole notion in terms, I lost my track now for a moment. Sorry, let me just get it. Just repeat your statement again, please, Anthony.
I said my perspective changed when I actually looked at a tree. When somebody said to me, but hold on, where does paper come from? And I went, well, paper comes from trees. And I went, well, and I actually changed my mind to say from then onwards, money does grow on trees.
Yes. So you're absolutely right. So in terms of here's the premise of the vision. If our vision is not big enough in terms of where we want to go, then we're going to constrain ourselves with what these resources that we have at the moment. So if we don't have that abundance mentality, and we say we have an orphan mentality and we don't have enough money, you will only make the proportionate of the decisions to the degree of the money that you've got on the table at the moment. So that puts brakes on your business and your entrepreneurship and anything that you want to do.
Now, relating this back to the investor mindset, because obviously our vision is providing the framework for the optimal investor solution. So we really believe that we do have the framework that supplies that investor solution, but making it optimal. But let's talk about the word invest. What I hear you say is that we need to invest in relationships. When you say that there are people with father wounds or mother wounds, I hear that they need to invest time in themselves to dig deep enough to get to a realization in terms of it is true, my background has led me to believe, like I said in my father's case, that money doesn't grow on trees, that I grew up with that orphan mentality, that there never was enough. However, the relationship as I built with my dad later on in life, and as we could grow together, for him to see that I wanted to be successful and not have money necessarily to be rich, but have sufficient just to be comfortable, but have enough money to affect others around me. And I saw how my dad started changing towards me as he saw that I had a different take on how to purpose the money. So when I talk about invest, for me, it aligns with to purpose your money. Speak around that.
Okay. So investment comes in different forms of currency. And when you invest, let's say from a rational perspective, because that's where the thing started, is that if you invest enough in relationships, by phoning people, having conversations with them, and planting seeds on a daily basis, when we do that, we will sometimes never be privileged enough, especially from a leadership perspective, to sit in the shade of those trees. But we constantly sow seeds in people's lives in terms of to grow and to develop. Now, when we look from that perspective in terms of attracting a greater degree of people that want to invest with us, if you look at the people that you spend the most time with, look in terms of how they invest, look in terms of how successful they are, look in terms of what type of work that they do. Can you learn from them? Because these are all different forms of investments. Now, if you will not go and get advice from the beggar on the corner street, because success attracts success. And so often, people will say in terms of, this is in terms of my track record, this is what I've done. But what are the results actually, what you've achieved? And in that, I think the greatest investment, one day I interviewed a lady, I said, she was telling me in terms of how good she is in this particular field. I said to her, so tell me, how much did you invest in the past 3 years in your education, on renewing your mind, of having a teachable spirit? And she said to me, nothing. I said, I see you wear fancy shoes. How many pairs of shoes have you got at home? She says, in excess of 500. I made a calculation, it was just over R1,000,000. I said, do you know how far you would have come if you invested R1,000,000 in your education? Because those shoes are going to worn, it's going to be stolen, you're not going to wear it for the rest of your life, but your education is with you for the rest of your life. And you're right, Anthony, the mindset, when you renew the mindset and change your mentality from a scarcity to an abundance, everything shifts.
Oh, wonderful. You spoke earlier about compounding. Now, if only she took those shoes and she didn't buy 500 pairs, but she bought 5, and she took, let's call it R1,000, and she put it into compounding for a period of 5 years, how different her life would have been. So when it comes to compounding and as an investor, how do you think those two link?
You know what? If you look at of the smart people in the world, in terms of how they invest, people with old money, that money was invested and reinvested over and over. Because people think that, for instance, a credit card is not a credit card. It's actually a debt card. Now, the greatest thing that you can do from an investor is to pay off your debt first. But don't use the money once you pay off your debt to supplement your lifestyle and become smart. Use that money in terms of invest it. And you are going to one day be in a very good position in terms of to retire and travel the world and do whatever you want to do, and not to have financial worries, because less than 5% of people across the globe can retire peacefully and independently.
Absolutely. Well, taking it to the next level, you speak about investing, you speak about compounding. You used right in the beginning, you spoke about the orphan spirit or the orphan mentality versus an abundance mentality. Now, we as people limit ourselves. I think that's one of our biggest problems. Yet, if you look at Deuteronomy 1:11, it says, and you will be blessed 100-fold. I think we can't in our minds imagine and even picture that we can grow our money 100-fold. And I think that we limit ourselves. So there should become a time where we sit under mentorship and great teaching to say, but hold on, what does it mean if it says that you will be blessed 100-fold? And that means in your relationships, in your finance, in whatever it is, 100-fold. It is possible. Your comment on that?
Absolutely. When I started early on, and what you talk about here, Deuteronomy, whatever, here in the background of me, behind me is the Jordan Valley. It's the most fruitful area in that part of the world. But the Jordan Valley has got a history of abundance and bring up fruit and harvest and things like that. Israel has got very scarce resources, and one of them is water. Now, when you look at, in terms of the scarce resource, how you can optimize that, and you become a smart investor in terms of innovation, in terms of technology, in terms of how you apply your mind, that is when abundance sets in. Because you only need to have success on one thing. And once your first million that you make is your first 100 rand that you make is probably difficult. Your first million that you make is going to be very difficult. But every million thereafter is going to become easier and easier and easier because you know already the recipe.
Well, I see a question here from Jan Kruger, and he says, how can people create an abundance mentality and have it affect your epigenetics, DNA, or stick?
Okay. So remember, if Anthony's father, let's say there is a history in Anthony's family of people got sequestrated, or they've lost things, especially people that went through the different wars and stuff like that. It was tough times. Now the trauma that one experienced, like for instance, let's say Anthony's grandfather, the trauma that he's experienced goes and sits on that epigenetic, and it forms a marker. That marker is passed on generationally from one son to the other son to the other son. And suddenly, here comes Anthony. Anthony is born and is this happy-go-lucky child. And every time he's here, his father says to him, Anthony, money doesn't grow on trees. Somewhere on a subconscious level, it speaks to his spirit and says, yes, money doesn't go on trees. Yeah, I heard it somewhere. And suddenly, over time, Anthony starts to believe it. Money doesn't grow on trees. So everything that Anthony then sees comes with that limitation. And there's a way to remove that marker. And once you remove the markers that is caused by trauma or things like that, and I'm using trauma because it's mostly associated with causing of these markers, what then happens, it restores the DNA to its original form. And when that is, then true magic starts to happen. Because now suddenly, Anthony starts to realize through the journey that you've been on over time, but there is an abundance, and it's up for me to go and declare it, to desire it, to want it, and to work for it.
I think that's a great and a fair answer. I think the other thing that came through strongly was lessons, that lessons will repeat itself until we embrace the learning. Now, why is it that certain people keep on walking down the road and fall into the big black hole, and the next day they're walking down the road and they fall into the same black hole? Why can't they just take another route? Help me understand that.
Well, Anthony, maybe the lady's going to crucify me, but there was one day a guy that walked on the beach, and he by accident kicked against this little genie lamp, and he starts to rub it, and the genie comes out. He says, what's taking you so long? And he shouts at him or whatever. I've been in this lamp for 3,000 years. You got one wish. And the guy says, no. I don't have just one wish, I have 3 wishes. So he says, okay, you have 3 wishes, but hurry up. He says, I like to travel but I'm scared of boats and planes. So build me a road from here to Mauritius that I can travel by car. The genie looks at him, he says, what? Are you serious? Ask for of substance. And the genie looks at him, he looks at the genie and says, okay, I want you to make me understand woman. The genie looks at him petrified, he says, how many lanes? So here's the thing. We will repeat the lesson until we learn it. But sometimes we are not prepared to do the hard work, because sometimes you need to go and face your dragon and walk into the cave. Like Daniel walked into the cave to go and face the lions. You don't know if the lions were going to eat him up. But he was brave enough. In every one of us, there's a small David. And a big Goliath is the enemy. And the enemy of doubt. And the enemy of scarcity. So when we go and fight the enemy, we need to believe and trust and give it over to God. But he wants us to be good stewards. So if he helps us to design or go into a certain direction, he wants us to walk into obedience, because in Jeremiah, 29:11, I've got the plans that I've made for you to prosper.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Plans not to harm you, but to give you a future. Well, you mentioned 2 things in the beginning of the talk, and I think as we embrace this topic tonight, you said there are 2 ways that we really can make a difference. One, when we literally are faced with situations of fear, or whatever it is to rejoice. Now, I want to challenge you. What about the guy that's sitting under the bridge and he's got nowhere to go, and yet we're telling him, rejoice? Let's get real.
Anthony, in everything that we have, what we have or do in life, we got a choice. Our choice is to go. If I talk about these trials and tribulations, people will say, "But look what happened to me. I've lost everything that I've had. I've lost my family, my wife, my business, my assets and whatever, and I'm here, a street beggar." Is what happened to you defining your life, or is it refining you? Because if you've lost it, you were successful once. And if that conviction in you and desire in you and belief in you and hope in you is big enough, you will surpass that. Because the lesson is, how it felt to be wealthy, to have good investments, and also how it felt to have nothing. So instead of going to sit and moan about everything, why don't you use that energy in terms of to catapult you to say, right, I am not going to wait for a wonder or a miracle to happen to make me come through this. I'm going to put in the hard work to get through it. And you know what? So often is we need to have the right opportunity, be in that right opportunity, or make sure that we are there. There are so many instances that I can think of that people persevered and pushed through. But if they didn't take that first step, they wouldn't be where they are today.
I think you embraced it beautifully when you said, are you going to allow circumstance to define you or refine you? That to me was just, like you said, a Rubicon moment. Well, lastly, as we get to the end of this talk, you said, it helps when we step into gratitude. And I see Jan Kruger is in agreement with me, that our lives, when we can look around and just be grateful. How do you manage your gratitude diary every day? What do you do? Maybe I'll share mine when you're done.
Okay. So every morning when I can open my eyes, the first blessing is in terms of that I will be able to see. I look for opportunities. I look to bless people. I look in terms of miracles around me, in terms of the creation. A couple of days ago, here in Johannesburg, there are so many people that's unemployed and begging for work, begging for food and handouts and stuff like that. And I had my briefcase in the back of my car, and my purse was in there. And there was this guy standing, and something in me, my spirit said, speak to this man. I want the window down. And I said to him, I am so sorry. I don't have any money with you. But if I come back, I hope that you're still here, that I can give you some. And he looked at me, he says to me, sir, thank you for acknowledging me as a person, because you are one of the first people today that looked me in the eye and had the trouble to have a conversation with me. Anthony, these are the small moments in terms of gratitude. When I sit with a problem on my table, I mentally make a step forward in terms of towards the problem to say, thank you for this problem that I have, that I've got the knowledge and wisdom and experience, and I've got access to abundance of in and outside the business, whereby I can be an overcomer. So there is nothing in particular. I love animals. My little Dachshund, in the morning when she wakes up, she teaches me every morning joy. And when you have got that joy in you, yes, things will come and slap you so hard sometimes Google can't find you. But when you step into that joy and you embrace it, because now you can pay it forward. My brother, 3 of my family members are cancer. My mother passed away. To my sister and my eldest brother are both cancer survivors. My brother advised me yesterday. He says, after so many sessions of chemo and radiation, I'm completely cured. And now I take that, I immediately shared it with my Connect group, and we started to pray for people in terms of healing and wonders to take place, because now we start to pay it forward. So that is in terms of, there are so many expressive ways to live in gratitude. It's just, it's a way of life.
Absolutely. Well, as we end with that, the last vision in my mind is when you said, is that your gratitude is awakened and goes to the next level when you look at the joy of your little Dachshund, your little dog. And someone once said to me, why is it that a dog just keeps on giving love and excited just to see you as the master? And someone once whispered to me and said, you know why? Because dog is actually spelled God backwards.
Yes. Yeah.
And
you're right.
And just that joy that we have. So with it, on that joyful moment, I want to thank you on behalf of MyWealth that you actually gave up your time to come and speak to us tonight. Thank you for the food of thought. Thank you for helping us look at where we are as our point of departure as investors, to first look at who we are, where we are, and where we're going based on who we are. So we want to just thank you for that. If anybody wants to communicate, thank you, Paula. I agree, that was absolutely brilliant. All the thank yous are coming in Guillaume Marais, so I'm just telling you. And if people wanted to contact him, you're welcome to send me a message and I will connect you and you can speak to him further. So Guillaume, from myself and the team, we'd like to just sincerely thank you as I now just go into leading into the next session. So Guillaume, from all of us, thank you so much. Thank you.
Anthony, thank you to you and Skalk and to the audience as well. I bless you all, and with a heart of gratitude, go and create abundance.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So friends, there you have it. That was Guillaume Marais that spoke to us in terms of that we can break through from that orphan mentality, orphan spirit, and that we should, by God's grace, look at having that abundance mentality. Because God said in Deuteronomy 8:18, it is He who gives the power for us to amass wealth. And He went further and He said in Deuteronomy 1:11, it says, may you be 100-fold blessed. And that is something that is at the grabs of every single person on this call tonight. Well, as we lead into our last part, I just want to remind everybody that we will have our monthly training. Our monthly IBC is normally on the first Thursday of every month. So the next one will be on the 3rd of December, where our guest speakers, and this is normally we do invite guest speakers to make us just think in a different way. And tonight, as you have certainly heard Guillaume Marais stretching us a bit to think differently. And then I just want to bring to your attention in the field that there's planned training in the field as follows, that will be the weekend of the 21st and 22nd of November in Johannesburg and Pretoria. We will have leadership training with a formal certification where you'll train on the full Saturday and Sunday, where you will know and understand that which our next guest speaker is going to be speaking about, because you need to somehow get some form of certification so that you can do what you want to do to help people in the field of investment. And I'd like to then say that the following weekend, which is the weekend of the 28th, 29th, we will repeat the training in Cape Town. And yes, for the people in Namibia, the weekend of the 5th and 6th of December, God willing, we shall be in Namibia. So just those three are on the cards. And here's the good news, and that is that early in next year, when all our programs are running 100% smoothly, we are aiming to do a roadshow in the months of late January, February, and March to get to places such as the Kimberleys, the Limpopos, the Uppingtons, the Georges, the PEs, etc. So that roadshow, so that we can come and meet you personally. As you all know, as investors, we band together and we go to the next level because of us taking and having the courage to make our money work for us. But through MyWealth, as you learned, it is safe money. Now it's going to be my pleasure to introduce to you our next speaker. Our next speaker needs no introduction, however, deserves the accolade. And that is that we would like to look at how do we literally cope in today's world when there are so many scams that are offered and people are losing money, versus being in a position of saying that you'd like to partner with and sojourn with a company that works in the field of safe money or peace of mind money. And I really believe that MyWealth method is being introduced to us, and the person that has reverse engineered the MyWealth DIA system, upon which everything departs from, is no one else that our founder and director, Charl Coetzee. Now, Charl Coetzee is going to help us tonight understand how do we look at the structures of the various businesses. People get a bit confused, so this is going to be an eye-opener for you in terms of understanding how MyWealth method, MyWealth DIAs, etc., fits into this regulatory framework. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our next guest speaker, Mr. Charl Coetzee.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this beautiful Thursday evening around the world. I'm aware we've got people from Europe, from Australia, New Zealand, America. So all you guys, welcome. So excited to speak to you. And yeah, it's truly a pleasure for me to be able to bring an innovative solution to a global audience and help everybody around the world accomplish their personal goals through establishing a solid investment journey. I'm so happy that Guillaume spoke about the journey. Of course, for me, it's all about the journey as well. And the fact is that all of us have all the wealth we need already within us. We just need to walk it out and learn how to unlock it and materialize it within our lives by upskilling ourselves, changing the way we think, changing the way we talk, and yeah, just reposition ourselves in a abundance. I wouldn't say just mindset, but in a way of living in abundance. That's more than just mindset, but obviously we can start with mindset. So tonight I'm going to talk to you guys about the way MyWealth method and the MyWealth companies has been put together to assist our members in understanding how the regulations work, which regulations are applicable to what, and how you are protected as the investor. So, as most of you know, we are MyWealth Method. This is the company we operate in from South Africa. It is a coaching and training organization. It is not an investment company. MyWealth Method teaches our private investors about finance, we educate them, and from time to time, we may or may not offer them opportunities to invest in private equity. This is how we operate. Let me go to the next slide. Just before we continue, I'm going to do a quick disclaimer, and then I'll get into some nitty-gritties. If you have questions, please type them into a chat box or a question box, and I will get back to them at the end of my session, and we'll go through them. And from that point on, you should be in 100% peace of mind. Okay, so the purpose of this presentation is purely educational. Neither the presenters nor the organizers are registered financial service providers, but our service providers are duly registered. So many times people say, but MyWealth Method is not registered. The answer is correct. We are not registered. I'm not a financial advisor, nor will I ever be a financial advisor. I'm a wealth coach. If there's any financial advisors on the call, I do ask forgiveness, because it's not always true that all of you are not financially free. But the reality is, if you want to become a successful doctor, who do you get trained by? You go to a successful doctor to train you in medicine. If you want to become a successful architect, you learn from a successful architect. If you want to become a successful businessman, you go and learn from other successful businessmen. If you want to be financially free, then most people go to a financial planner who may or may not be financially free. Okay, let's interpret that any way you want. Okay, MyWealth, Charl, myself, Schalk and Anthony, and our coaches, we do not want to be financially regulated, because then we can't help people on a financial journey. Then we are forced to say certain things which we don't want to say. Okay, are financial planners necessary? Absolutely. I'm not what's the word? Disrespecting their profession. They have a certain role to function, but the role is not financial freedom. The role is risk management. Okay, should you have a product, or should you take up a product or service, you'll enter into an agreement with the relevant service providers introduced to you, and you will operate under their terms and conditions. We work with multiple companies. Each one of them have their own rules, regulations. So when you engage with them, those are the guys you need to, those are the terms you need to comply with. All calculations are illustrative and based on assumptions. As stipulated by law, no guarantees can be made about your ability to get results or earn money with our ideas, information, tools, and strategies. Results in life are up to you. Again, thank you, Guillaume. What he taught us tonight is so true of that sentence. Usually, if I have my way, I can spend a half an hour just talking about why results in life are up to you. But guys, if you don't make the decision to change, nothing will change. A product or a service or a investment will not change your life. You will change your life. You need to make the decisions. MyWealth can help you providing you content, direction, and strategies that work well for us, our students, who could help you move forward. But that is my disclaimer. Okay, so let's get to the fun stuff. So how have we put everything together in MyWealth? Well, MyWealth Method is an education company. We've also structured a company called MyWealth Capital offshore in Mauritius, which means we are not a South African investment. We are an international investment facilitator. Okay, we have implemented life wrappers, which means for about 90% of the world, we can offer tax-efficient investment vehicles. We have make use of fintech and blockchain technologies to develop an ecosystem in which you can move your funds, grow your money, and have access to it within a tax-efficient manner. We make use of local and international trust and companies. PTY is the South African term for it, but just general companies. So depending where you are in the world, we can or can't assist you, as we only cater for not for the whole world in terms of local structures. But in terms of international structures, we have obviously our favorite jurisdictions, where we can help you become, let's just call it, risk diverse. We make use of a banking correspondence system. I don't know many of you are aware of this, but many times when a bank in South Africa, the example uses Capitec, when a new bank starts, they usually don't start under their own license. They start on let's call it a big brother, and they use the big brother's infrastructure, but it's their brand at the front end. We've done the same. We've put MyWealth at the front end as the brand, MyWealth Capital, but behind MyWealth Capital, we actually have 17 different international banks providing the banking infrastructure, and we can move between them. And then we also have a bank internal exchange. And it's very important for our members, and the way we're going to journey with them is to have an internal exchange for which they can then convert and move their money in the future. Then we also make use of financial access and financial market access, and also asset market access. So the one is where we grow our money through financial instruments, which is available through the regulated platforms in the world. And the other one is where we actually try to focus on increasing our underlying assets. So we make our assets make babies. One asset becomes two assets. Okay, and depending what assets you want to grow, we have different funds for that. But with this in mind, we need to understand this following thing. Okay, and for South Africa, it's SARS. Internationally, there's all of them have different names, but the bottom line is your local tax agency. Most of them have the following saying. SARS says you are guilty until you have proven otherwise, and can freeze your accounts until you have proven otherwise. Guys, this is a scary statement. So local tax agencies can basically tell you you are guilty. Whether you are or not is irrelevant. They say you are. Then they can freeze your assets. And many times they do, not always, but many times they do. Now you have to go and prove your innocence with access to no funds, because they've frozen everything. The reality is I'm not brave enough, let me just put it that way. I'm not brave enough to go and mess with a tax authority and tell them, please come and look at my stuff, and I'm not going to obey you, because by law, they will freeze all your assets. I would rather play within their rules, play by their rules, and use their rules to make sure I'm tax efficient. And this is what we've done within MyWealth. Okay. So the way we've been structured is this MyWealth Method. MyWealth Method is a private investor club that provides training education. We then make a recommendation to our MyWealth private capital investments. Okay, that is regulated under SEP-C or SARS in South Africa. Obviously, when our funds are registered in Mauritius, Seychelles, and Switzerland, and we are then all registered under those regulations. But in South Africa, you basically have two choices to take part in our private equity offerings. The first option is to invest directly into those private equity companies. So you become a shareholder. Please note that you no longer have the capital. You've got the shares or a share premium. Okay. The companies then invest on its own behalf the money in different vehicles to your benefit as shareholder. If you want to go under the FECA route, which is the Financial Board of South Africa, you can do so within MyWealth, but via the Delta VC1 company, which is a compliant and financial registered company in South Africa. But it's still a private equity investment. Okay, but it doesn't matter how you enter the investment. If you are an international client or you're a local client, you want to invest directly, we recommend direct investment. If you're a local client, but you do want to have some tax benefits own above tax efficient returns, you can do it through Delta VC1. What we then do is the private companies, which is either Dias or Vanguard or Centurion, when it has an agreement in place with MyWealth Capital, which is our offshore private bank, which is the one which have all the service providers in place. They then provide the money to the regulated asset management company, which then trade with the money. Okay. So please note that MyWealth Method is not a deposit-taking institution. We're an education institution. You then become a shareholder of the MyWealth private offerings, which is either Dias, Vanguard, or Centurion, which then, where the company then takes its money, put it with Capital, and Capital has the infrastructure in place where the asset managers can then work with the money. So this is the flow. I want to also illustrate something else here, okay? Do the MyWealth DICE or Vanguard or Centurion companies provide multi-level marketing commissions? Okay, I can't see your faces, so I'll answer for you. The answer is no. They are purely private equity offerings, okay? They don't pay any commissions to nobody. They do have an agreement with MyWealth Method that on every share that is sold, they amortize a fee that it's paid over to Method that Method can distribute according to its own policies and procedures. So if anybody comes to you and says DICE is a Ponzi or it's a scam, you can say, you ask them why. Is it because you have to get people? The answer is no, you don't have to. It's investment. The money will work whether you tell other people or not. The fact that there are commissions paid to you by Method is a totally separate legal matter. It's two different companies that has different functions. The one is the investment channel, which is the DICE, the Vanguard and Centurion funds, of which you become a shareholder. And the other one is your educational company, okay? So this is one of the ways we have structured our whole infrastructure to make sure that we separate the risk from one another. So looking at the three investment options in which you can become an equity holder or a shareholder, whether you're local or international is irrelevant. There's the MyWealth DICE options. MyWealth DICE has been specifically been designed for those people who want cash flow. It's a cash flow solution. The mechanisms and the way DICE has been put together is focusing on leverage and compounding to give the shareholder proper cash flow. Then we've got three different share classes. We've got the liquid, the focus, and the S12J. Most of you understand this focus share class. That's the one we've been made available. Once we go live within this month, we will sit down with everybody who has $10,000 or more invested, that is a South African taxpayer, and we'll give you the option for S12J. The rest of investors can just remain within the focus share class. Within DICE, we were able to secure a 75% insurance against theft, fraud, and black swan events. Guys, is it impressive that we have insurance? The answer is not really. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Is it impressive that there's 75% insurance? The answer is not really. What is impressive is the fact that there are insurance. Do you think an insurance company will provide insurance to an organization if they believe they're going to lose money? The answer is no. Because the insurance company is a company that wants to make profit. They're in business to make money. So the fact that they were willing to give insurance means that they believe, based on a risk management decision-making process, the risk of us losing the money is much, much smaller than the probability of them having to pay out. Thus, they were willing to give insurance. So it's not the insurance in itself that is the awesomeness, if I can call it that. It's the fact that they were willing to back the asset managers that works with the money to say, we trust you guys not to lose the money. Thus, we'll insure you based on your track record. Now, I hope that's a nugget that falls through. Okay, the next investment vehicles are the Vanguard funds. So there are literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different investment channels you can choose from. You can either invest into Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, or Ethereum. But if you don't like crypto, that's also okay. You can invest in gold and silver, where we actually invest in physical gold or silver. So if you invest in a gold fund, the goal is to make 1 kilogram of gold, 2 kilograms of gold, or 1 kilogram of silver, 2 kilograms of silver. So you're actually accumulating more of the underlying assets. And those who want to do the USD can also do USD. And this is something quite unique. We also have a 12J option for all of the above. With other words, if you want to if you're South African and you want to invest via the FSCA into Bitcoin and have a tax rebate, I'm not going to talk about how 12Js works on this call, but if you want to have a tax rebate because you made a lot of Bitcoin profits elsewhere, you can take your Bitcoins, you can invest it via the 12J vehicle into the Bitcoin or the gold or the Litecoin funds, and you now have tax efficient returns. Guys, that's massive. Then we've got the MyWealth Centurion funds, on which you also can become a shareholder. So when you invest in any one of these three vehicles, you actually become the shareholder of the operating company, which is either Dias, Vanguard, or Centurion. Obviously, you can invest in all three of them, then you become a shareholder of all three. The Centurion funds has been regulated, it's completely and fully regulated within the terms of the financial boards, where Dias and Vanguard, the funds themselves, the portfolio itself is not regulated, but it's operated by regulated asset managers, and it runs on a regulated platform. Okay, so that's the difference, and that's why Centurion is able to get 100% insurance and the other two only 80 or 75. And the Centurion funds are all USD based, and yeah, so the entry level for Dias is a minimum of $100, and Guard's a minimum of $1,000, and Centurion is a minimum of $10,000, just to know where you fit in. Okay. Here is our certificates for Delta VC1. Please note, MyWealth is not the owner of Delta VC1. It's a service provider to us. Okay. So what we actually do is we have basically made an agreement with Delta VC1 that because of their license, they can then provide our South African members with a tax efficient manner of investing into MyWealth, Dias, Vanguard, or Centurion. Okay, so it's a channel. It's not our license. As I said, MyWealth method is not regulated. We make use of regulated service providers, because that's what makes, that's where you need to be protected. You don't need to protect it in the marketing or the education side. You need to protect it on the financial side, where you actually put your money in. So most of you have seen this, but I want to get back to the journey. How do we help our people within MyWealth? The first thing is, if you want to become wealthy, especially if you want to build generational wealth, you should become totally allergic to debt. Debt is the destroyer of wealth, or even the preventer of wealth. Most people can't accumulate wealth because they have debt. Debt is what keeps them from acquiring wealth. So we need to become allergic to debt. The next thing we need to do is we need to start changing the way we think and the way we operate. There's no sense for me to tell you guys how to be tax efficient if you don't have millions. Think about that. Okay, or teach you how to manage millions if you only have hundreds. It is a different way of thinking when you start working with bigger amounts of money. So we first need to start changing your thinking in terms of how to work with what you have, and change your vehicle. Go from a passive or from an active vehicle to a passive vehicle. But you're still pretty much on the same skill set when it comes to money, but you've learned a new skill. You went from a bicycle to a motor car, or you went from a car to an airplane. It's both transportation vehicles, but they have a different skill set associated with them. So making money as a traditional worker or as a traditional entrepreneur is great. Okay, it's a skill set, but to go from entrepreneur or worker mentality to investor mentality is a total different way of thinking. So that is what we're going to help our members first do, is to change the way they think about money, about wealth, and how it's created. Once we've done that, then we 10x. Then we have the exponential growth, because now that you have the new skill set, we can hone it and increase the skill set of that particular vehicle. And this is basically what we do within MyWealth. This is our process. And what we're going to teach you as a leader is how to help other people do this in a regulated framework. Okay? So in MyWealth, we've got 4 different journeys of 4 different memberships. The first one is the Tyro Club. Please note, for all Dias shareholders, that any of the Dias packages are available within our free membership, our Tyro membership. The Tyro membership is to help people create cash flow, to create financial oxygen. we don't want to charge you any fees until you started making money. So this is why we offer this membership for free. You can become part of MyWealth, grow your cash flow, and once you have a sufficient cash flow, once you need to start considering coaching or education or structuring or more advanced investment strategies, only then do you have to upgrade, or willingly, you don't have to, but we recommend you do, okay? Because this is a journey. And this is we start laying a financial foundation. And you can see the ideal investor capital is $2,000. We don't want you to even consider moving to Core Club if you don't have at least $2,000 under management. Okay, that's the minimum we would recommend. But anything from $2,000 to $5,000, that's a good time to start with the Core Club memberships. And then we start working with you. You work with a team leader who's been certified by us, and they start helping you on the journey. Once you have grown and you become part of the equity club, the ideal investor should have a minimum of $20,000 under management. We start powering your machine. We start looking at basic structuring, at cash flow versus capital, and we start diversifying your income. Okay, very important. And then if you're become a wealth client, you need to have a minimum of $100,000 under management, usually $200,000 to $300,000. You start looking at advanced structuring, international structuring, tax efficient structuring. We start looking at wealth and family legacy. And something that Guillaume touched on tonight, and I'm so happy that his wife works with families that has been working with wealth 11 generations. Guys, trust and companies and money has nothing to do with family legacy or family wealth. It is all to do with relationship. If you do not train your children and you equip them mentally, spiritually, and physically to work with wealth, if they inherit that money, it's gone. It's your responsibility as the wealth creator and as the parent of your children to lay the foundation for legacy through relationship and education and equipment, not through money. Money comes and money goes. True generational wealth is built through relationship. Okay, there's a nugget. I hope you get that. Okay, so our memberships for Tyro is free. Our Core Club is 100 once off plus 50 per month. Our Equity Club members pay a once off $500 plus $20 or $200 per month, and the Prestige Club members are $2,000 and $1,000 per month. I want to say something about these memberships, because many people think this membership is to make money. It's actually not. This membership is to keep the people who doesn't belong in there out of it. Okay, I've said something strange now. Think about this. If the $50 per month is a problem for you, then you don't belong in Core Club. Then you belong in Tyro Club. If the $1,000 per month in Prestige Club is a problem for you, then you don't belong there. You belong in one of the others. The membership fees were put there twofold. Firstly, to make sure the right people are in the right club, so that you can get the appropriate, I don't want to say advice, but appropriate guidance to move from where you are to where you need to be. And secondly, it's there to reward those who's going to spend the time with you to help you move forward. So these fees are paid to the team leaders, to the coaches, for them to be rewarded for the time and effort they're going to spend with you to help you grow. If you get coaching for free, you're probably going to evaluate exactly what you pay for it. There's a reason coaching usually costs $10,000 if you want proper coaching. When I was still coaching people in the business world, I charged $1,000 per hour for my time. But I can tell you that people came back. Every month or every 2 months, they sit down with me, they pay me for 2 hours, we did the planning on their businesses, and for some reason they kept coming back. Why? Because what I told them, they implemented, and then they made more money. But the guys I gave my coaching for free to, they never came back. They didn't value the information that was shared with them. So unfortunately, we as humans tend to only listen when we feel the pain, okay? So we've implemented some pain. Okay, on a lighter note. Okay, so what is the journey? Ideally, we're going to start with someone within the free membership, the Tyro membership club. Then we're going to transition them to the core, then to the equity, then to prestige. And guess what's the last one? Your legacy. We want you to come to a point where your life's purpose are fulfilled by who and what you are. That you're not wasting time generating money, because money in itself is useless. It's about taking your abilities, taking your gifts, and living them, and you living it to your fullest potential. That is when you are the most happy, is when you have complete fulfillment in what you do. When you do what you love, not because you're getting paid for it, because just pure out of love. That's just what we want to get our members to. Okay, whatever that might be, whether it's being a doctor, engineer, a nurse, lawyers, I don't know about. Okay, you guys, sorry. Okay, but whatever your profession might be, whatever you love doing, whether it's caring for animals, for people, whether it is helping the homeless, or helping the elderly, or helping the wealthy, or helping whatever, we all have a passion. We all have something we love doing. And we would do that if our money was taken care of. And this is the journey we have. So what we do is we start from Tyro and we move you through cycles. Guys, it is not going to be a straight line. It's going to be up and down, but the journey is what's going to make you successful. And success is different for each person, by the way. Okay, but you go through this journey. And for some people, legacy is having $1 million. For other people, you can do your legacy with $100,000, or for some people, it's $10 million what they need. It's different for each person. We're not saying you need to become a gazillionaire. It's not meant for everybody. But you can become financially free and leave a legacy. We just need to empower you with the right amount of finances. So we start learning you, teaching you about debt versus freedom when you become a Tyro Club member. Start looking at income versus cash flow, and how to build your own business so you can generate cash flow. Guys, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but investments per se does not necessarily create cash flow. Businesses create cash flow. When you have a business that is stable and predictable and constant, and you can draw down a certain amount of money every single month, your lifestyle is totally completely different from someone who doesn't have cash flow. They might have a lot of money in a bank or in an investment or whatever, but it doesn't mean they can use it to live from. So businesses create cash flow. Once you start understanding those principles, we start looking at real budgeting. I'm not talking about the thing you pull up every month and say, I have not made my budget. I'm talking about practical budgeting, where your budget determines your priority, or your priority determines your budget, and it is a guidance to your lifestyle. We start looking at risk management and how to leverage cash flow into capital. This is what we start looking at and teaching our members once they become a core club member. When you become an equity member, we start looking at basic structuring. Whether it's national, or local, or international, it depends on where you are. Cash flow versus capital, okay? And then diversification of income. Prestige members, we start looking at advanced structuring, family and wealth legacies, and obviously diversification of assets. So this is the journey we're going to take our members on. And we've put together a regulated framework to take you from the beginning towards the end. It doesn't matter where you start, you can build on what you've learned and step by step move forward. Okay, so what I quickly want to do is I want to show you an example of the documentation we'll be sharing with you guys soon. We are still putting it through compliance, but once everything has been ticked off within all the jurisdictions we need to operate from, you will all receive a document like this. So this is Delta VCS1 PPM, okay? There you can see the registration number, FSP number, and the SARS VCC number, which is the tax authority of South Africa. In this document, they explain to you exactly how the shares works, what's the offer, the investment process, whatever you need to know as an investor is within this document. And this document will be made available to each and every shareholder of each of the companies. So this is the Delta VC1 PPM. You will have a different one for DICE and for Vanguard and for Centurion. But everybody will get a document like this before they make their share acquisitions. You work through that, and if you're happy, then you make use of the second document, which is the share the source of fund declaration. So this will be built automatically into the system. Every time you make an investment, according to law, you need to declare whether your money comes from, whether it's a salary, income, a dividend, an interest, a gift, so whatever. So you need to declare where money comes from so for us to be compliant of the anti-money laws, okay? And it's not a massive thing, guys. You just choose where it comes from, you submit it, and it's signed. As easy as that. You also have to complete the share subscription form. So when you want to invest in DICE, you will buy a certain share class. And MyWealth DICE, it will be the focus share class. It will give you a description of what the shares is or is not. You'll put in your information, the system will pre-populate this for you, you'll submit this, and then you will be issued a share certificate and of the company after your payment has been verified completely. Here we stipulate what we need from you to do proper KYC or FICA if you're from South Africa, which you already would do within the system. It will be automatically applied to all your investments. Okay, so and then you sign this and you submit it into the system, and there you go. Okay, so that will be the process of acquiring shares. And there will be full transparency on what the company does, who the company are, and everything within that, so you can make an informed decision on how you want to allocate your money and how your money will work for you. Then as well, with each one of the investment funds, so this is just the MyWealth Capital Balance Fund. So if you don't remember, if you remember the slides over here, you can see there's the balanced fund. So each fund will have a fund fact sheet, okay? General disclaimer of risk, who are the asset managers the company make use of. So you can see it's first maybe equity holdings. They make use of external service providers. So everything's declared here. What is the objective? Who's the ideal investor? So on this, the ideal investor is someone with moderate risk profile, okay? The base currency is USD. Here's what they're going to trade with. So this fund will only be making money through equity, cash markets, hedge markets, fixed income markets, token markets, derivatives, and currency markets. This is what this specific fund will trade. Here's the restrictions. Okay, so all of this information will be made available before you guys invest into any funds once we go live. So there's a complete framework that has been submitted with the relative service providers, the relative regulators, and you will have everything in hand when we go to market to make an informed decision whether you want to become involved in the different companies. Okay, just for interesting sake, our asset managers has been in operation for more than 20 years. They work on some of the biggest funds internationally. Okay, so we've teamed up with guys with solid reputations that have long track records, and so we're all on good hands. And because of their track record, we were able to get the insurance on the monies we are working with. Okay, I think that is a quick overview of how the regulatory framework works within MyWealth. If there's any questions, please ask them. I will, and then what I will do is I've updated version 4 of this DICE planner sheet, which I've explained in a previous webinar. Just want to go through this again with you guys and show you some of the examples and the changes we've made. And and then I will hand over to Anthony. But first, let's see which questions there are. If you want to speak, just raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Johan Creer, I see you're still, I've put your hand up. So if you still want to speak, we'll unmute you. Gillian, can I just ask you to make me the host again so I have the ability to unmute the people? Okay, let me just quickly go to the questions in the chat box while Gillian just makes me the host again. Okay, that's been answered. Okay. Jörg Vermeulen. Okay, so if you're going to become a consultant or a team member of the MyWealth team and you're going to build an organization, you will place them as your front line. Children and family members, place them as downline from one another. If you want to know why, send me a WhatsApp or your team leader a WhatsApp, and then I'll explain to you why. But that's the short answer of it. Okay. Okay, Paula, will we complete a form every time we make a new investment? The answer is yes. So every time you make an investment in MyWealth, I'm not talking about compounded investments. I'm talking about a new deposit. You will have to go through the share subscription process again. Okay, it won't be that complicated because everything will be pre-populated for you, but you have to agree to the terms and conditions every single time. Okay. Okay. Okay, good question. Thank you, Chris. So he asked if you want to book for the event in Cape Town. Let me just quickly show you guys how to book for the upcoming trainings we're going to have. So you log into the MyWealth Method portal as a member. You will see the different events we have. So let's say you want to book for the Cape Town one. So you can see this is Cape Town. So I want to book for the investor workshop. You click on view. There's the information. It's 20 MMCs. You say yes, I just want to book for myself. If you want to book for you and your wife, you can add the family member by clicking there, and then you can book for your wife. Please note that your spouses have some discount. You click book. I'm just going to check that because my wife's not joining us over there. Okay, you don't have this account. So what it will do, it automatically convert your MMCs into a rand amount. You click proceed, and what it will do is it will redirect you to the payment portal where you can then either pay with your credit card, EFTs, or debit cards, or any one of these other channels. So that's how easy it is to book for one of the events. Okay, I'm just going to go cancel. Will redirect me back to the portal. So if you would like to attend one of the trainings we're going to do, you are welcome to do so by booking any one of the events on here. Okay. Great. See if there's more questions. I'm not seeing any. No, Chris. At this point, we only accept rands for the events. Once the system goes live, you will be able to book your events via Bitcoin as well. Okay. I'm not seeing any hands that has been risen. Okay. Anthony, I'm just going to ask you if you think I need to answer any of questions that I've missed or things I need to explain a bit more in detail. If you can just unmute yourself.
Charl, I just think when you said that you'd like to just show the changes on the Focus Planner, I think a lot of people are very excited about it. So please explain what has changed. And I do believe a quick guidance tour would help a lot. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Great. So if you're a DICE investor or a DICE shareholder already, you can go into the Telegram group and download this Vision 4 Planner. If you've got anything except 4, delete it. It's no longer relevant. Please note, there are disclaimers and some notes here at the bottom, so we are fully transparent. Okay, so how this planner basically works is you can say, I would like to start my investment. Let's say today's the 11th of this month. So I type in the 11th, but I will only have my money on the 25th of this month. So what the sheet will do is it will automatically take into consideration when you go to the DICE, it will automatically check for when is the first Monday after you make your deposit, and from that day onwards, it will do the calculations on your behalf. So I'm just going to change this back to the 1st of the year. Okay. What you can also then do is from the drop down, you choose, do you want to work on the average return we think we will produce, or do you want to be more conservative, work on the average low or the low, or if you think we're going to be more aggressive, you can work on the high or the average high. I just do it on 2% because we are doing more than 2% at this point in time, so this should be an accurate estimation. where our net weekly return is 2%, our gross return is 4%. If we maintain an average of 2, your 200% on DIAS will be reached after 11 months and 15 days. If I change this to 15, you'll see the time frame changes to 1 year, 3 months, and 10 days. Or if I change it to 3%, it shows it will be completed within 7 months and 20 days. So it just gives you a nice estimate on how long it should take for you to reach your 200% dividend. Okay, so for now, I'm not going to do the 12J option, but you can choose from the drop down any one of the amounts. But if you're going to use a custom amount, you can then type in here. See, it's been locked. Okay, so version 4 doesn't work, guys. I need to fix that. So we'll be bringing out version 4.1. Okay, so and the same for focus shares. You can choose the package you want. So I'm going to use, let's use the $2,000 one as an example. If you would like to top up every single month your investment, let's say you've got $1,000 or $500 or $100, would you then contribute on a monthly basis, you can put it in there and it will add it on a monthly basis to your calculations. The compound factor is the following. If you want to grow your money X amount of times before you want to start pulling your proceeds, then you put that X amount of times in there. So if I put in 5, it means I want to grow my $2,000 to $10,000 before I start taking any proceeds. Okay, but you can make it 1, you can make it whatever you desire. Okay, then the 75% is how much money you're going to pull once this factor has been reached. So for example of this presentation, I'm going to make it 2. So we will compound 100% of all our proceeds back into investment, and then once we've reached 200% of original growth, or 2x, just make it 3x, not to confuse the normal 200% with the compound factor. Then I want to draw out 75%. Note I've given you guys guidelines on the side to say we don't recommend you compound less than 55%. We actually do recommend anything from 60 to 90%. That's what I would say is the safe spot, depending on how aggressive you want to be or how much cash flow you want to be. Okay. Once you've set these numbers, it will work out a set of numbers for you. So here you can see your estimated monthly income after tax. So this is tax-free income. So from year 2, you'll make, if you put in $2,000, you make it grow, you top up $100 per month until you've grown 3 times, you take 75%. That 25% you take out is equivalent to $300 in month 14, so at the beginning of year 2. It's equivalent to $700 at the beginning of year 3. It's equivalent to $1,500 in year 4, and obviously $3,000 per month after tax in year 5. And that is at 25%. So if we make this 75, 60%, note how the numbers change. Okay, so go and play with this. This is just to give you guys an indication of how it actually works. Here you can see your year-on-year growth. So that is the total share capital that's been increased. Here's the total dividends that's been paid out before tax. And this is your total return, taking in consideration the total capital with the total dividend. You'll note that here we note you've made $8,100 for that 12-month period, but in total you've made $18,200 in capital growth. So here you can see what you've made for the first 6 months, for the 12 months, for 6 months, 12 months of that year, and that's a total and same over in the dividend side. Okay. What has changed in this version versus the previous versions is the way the S12J option works. I'm just going to put this on 10K. So if we go to the planner, here you can see how the DIA shares actually work, and here you can see how the, I'm just going to take this 100 out here because it's going to confuse the matter. So you invest your $10,000. We make a 2% net, which is a 4% gross return. So we declare our returns after 2 weeks of being pending. We then compound that into a wallet, and then here we start growing our share premium. So this is not shares. This is your shares in 12J. Your premiums, your share premiums get compounded and grows on within the fund on your behalf. But please note, you are not able to take any of this money out. Only once you have reached the 200% net payout on the $10,000 you've stipulated, that do you get the full payout of your money. But please note, you see that is 10 and this is actually 40. So we've paid out 200% on the 10,000, but because it's been compounding, growing within your share vault, your premium vault, it has grown to a total of $43,000. This $43,000 then gets paid out to you, and you can then add it to normal DIA shares. This $43,000 is actually not a dividend. It is a loan that's paid to you on your own money, and so you get this tax-free. And this is the major difference that has been added to this plan revision versus number 2 or 3. Okay, it's the way the 12J works. So I'm going to take the 12J out and just work on a normal share so that you can see how DIAS actually works when it's normal shares. So over here you can see the normal DIAS shares. So let me just go to the beginning again. So here I show you, you've got 2,000, you make your first 4% gross return, or 2% net, it remains spending, and then it pays out. Once it's paid out, you can decide your compounding factor. In this example, we've chosen to compound 100% until we've grown 2 times or 3 times. You can say there's my 3x factor. So it will automatically grow my money at 100% compounding until I've grown to $6,000 in share capital. It goes into my DIAS wallet. Then once I have enough to buy more shares, it buys more shares for me, and then it puts my share capital into trade for me over there. And so it continues the process until you've grown to 3x, which is 6,000. Here you can see we actually, you made 216 that is paid out this week. It takes that 216, you divide it according to your split of 25 and 75. So it takes 25% of that, which is 54, pays it into your main wallet, which you can make withdrawals from. And then it takes the other 75, put it in your DIAS vault, which is then used to buy more shares for you, so you keep compounding. If you change that, let's change that 75 to 60. You can note it now takes 40% and pays it out as a dividend to you, and you only take 60% back into compounding. And you can change with play with the numbers and see what the results are. Okay. So these are the main changes we've made to this sheet. Okay. See, there's one question. Okay, please explain the relationship between the compound factor and the dividend after tax. To achieve 3x on the compound factor may take longer than 14 months in the estimated monthly dividend. Okay, so when you compound, you are not receiving dividends. We're not declaring dividends to you. We're actually issuing you more shares, which doesn't, that event doesn't attract more any taxes. As long as you compound, there's no taxes involved that it has to be paid. That's why 100% of the growth you have can be issued to you in shares. But if you do draw down from your share, from the shares you've invested, and you take a dividend, we have to take off 30% dividends tax and pay that over to the authorities, which we do once a year when we declare all dividends. So if you're going to say, let's do a 50-50 split on your growth, you take 50%, you buy more shares of that. That portion will have 100% of the capital working for you, and that will make your share increase, your shares increase faster. But the 50% you draw out as a dividend, you will actually only get 40% of it, because 20% of that has to be paid in taxes. So it will take you longer to pull out the 100% net profit, but you'll still get the net profit. So instead of, let's call it 12 months, it might now take you 14 months to get your full 200% payout or the 100% net payout. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. I think I've covered everything. Anthony, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Charl, on behalf of all the people. We thoroughly enjoyed that. It was a refresher. Thank you for the people that now know how we have changed the calculator to suit your needs. I'd just like to land a last little thought with you. I'm just going to share my screen and just to quickly take you through. The question was, will whatever happens to you in life define you or refine you? Good things happen to bad people. That's just one of those things. And bad things happen to good people. You've got no control over life. So what I would like to propose is that when you look at yourself in this, where you stand with what you've heard tonight from Guillaume Marais, as he spoke to us about breaking free from what we call an orphan mentality, and rather to look at abundance, because Lord of the Universe is making that available to all of us. And then Charl help you understand that there's a journey that we're taking. So the first thing is you can either choose that if you are defined by your circumstances, that you can discard the lesson. You can discard having learned what you should be learning. Or we want to rather look at the word refine, and there's the acronym. The R is for review. You want to review what you heard tonight. You want to review and say, am I basically in a position where I've got a father wound or a mother wound? And that plays a role in terms of how I think about myself. You also want to review, do you have a orphan mentality because of the way that you were trained about money, and therefore you've got a poor money blueprint? And review that and decide whether you are going to be defined or refined by that. Then the E is for expect. You can expect that nothing will change if you don't do anything about it. You've heard good advice tonight. So what would you expect must happen now? You will have to take the action for anything else to happen. So if you expect to grow your finance, you literally will have to take your own destiny in your own hands. Because remember, God gave talents to different people. Some 1, some 5, some 10. And that's the same God of the universe. And there's nothing wrong in different people having different accolades or different blessings. It's just the way it is. So expect to do something after attending a conference like tonight. How do you do that? I believe it takes us to the F. Face the facts. Face where you are. If you are purely a Tyro investor and you are not going to make a core investor in the next 5 to 8 months, that's fine. That's who you are. Or if you are already an equity member and you're at that level, face the facts that you've got a great responsibility to carry, because some people get 1 talent, some get 5, some get 10. Face the facts in terms of where you stand and what you want to do about that. Because remember, we're looking at the acronym, either it will define you or refine you. The R was to review your circumstance. The E was to expect that you have to take action and do something with these situations, while the F is to face the facts of your life. I, invest. We would like you to believe that if you can, number one, invest in the right relationships. As you know, MyWealth operates as a family. Who's the family that is surrounding you that can help you investing, firstly, in your personal relationships, so that your personal relationships can go to the next level? But most importantly, for what we are talking about tonight, your journey is getting you to financial freedom. You have to invest to do so. Invest your time, invest your effort, invest your relationships, but most importantly, of course, invest your monies. You cannot get where you want to be without investing your monies. Then, after the I, we look at the N, no regrets. Listening to the Investor Business Conference tonight, we'd like you to ask you not to have any regrets, no regrets, because it all comes back to you. Earlier on, when Charl did the disclaimer, he said, results in life are entirely up to you. So the question is, you have been looking at your financial situation and you are not happy. Well, what are you going to do going forward? Are you going to do something about it? You know, it's so easy to go out for an evening and spend 1,000 Rand. However, why don't you just skip that one meal and start somewhere by putting 1,000 Rand on investment and say that I want to forget about it for the next 5 years and see where it takes you. Then you can say no regrets. And then lastly, as we refine how we live life after being part of this Investor Business Conference. It's the E for excellence. Expect to live a life of excellence if you do the right things at the right time. Speak to the right people, take the right decisions, take the right actions, and you will know that you don't have to be defined by your circumstances, but you'll learn to be refined. This is Dr. Anthony van Tonder, thanking you all for having been on the Investor Business Conference tonight. I want to thank Charl Coetzee as our speaker that helped us understand how we are structured, and I hope that there's more clarity and better understanding. I do know that people will have to listen to that part of this recording, which we will be making available for up until the weekend, to listen to it again, because I know it is complex. In terms of our guest speaker tonight, Guillaume Marais, that discharged so beautifully of his beauty, like you said, it sometimes leads to that Rubicon moment, which I thought was just so aptly described. And then for us, the next Investor Business Conference will be on Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, the 3rd of December. So please, can you already put that in your diaries and make sure that you are ready for that? Then be reminded of the training that we will have for leaders. This is inner circle leaders, and the Saturday will be investor focused and the Sunday will be leadership driven. So it will be a Saturday, Sunday meeting, both firstly starting off for the Johannesburg and Pretoria people on the weekend on the 22nd of November. That's right, the 21st and 22nd November. And then we will do Cape Town the following weekend, the 28th and 29th. And then following on, we actually will be visiting Namibia on the 5th and 6th of December. But Namibia will be a different kind of conference. It will be more of an introductory nature, where people can invite other people to come and be exposed to what we do. Whereas the other two Meccas, Johannesburg and Cape Town, will be hard on training for leaders, firstly for the investors to understand where they stand from investment capacity, and then the leadership training on the Sunday, followed by certification, because we are now moving to the point where, as you can see tonight, when Charles showed you the PPM, that we are doing things the way it should be done, being part of the regulatory framework. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Anthony, the CEO, signing off and wishing all of you a fantastic evening. And I thank everybody that participated. Until we meet on the 3rd of December, thank you and good night.